Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head back down to Slovenia, and this is another beer from the second coming of the Davor box. So a huge thank you once again to Davor Širet for making this review possible. He sent me a good number of Slovenian beer reviews as well as some other kind of random things over the last couple of years. I'm a long-term follower of the channel incidentally as well. So yeah, for this one we are going to return it to the Lobik craft brewery in Maribor, the second city in Slovenia, and this is a beer that I'm very curious to try because the last beer I had from these guys was pretty damn awesome actually. So we're going to have a taste of the Hop Hazard today, and this one is a New England style pale ale or Vermont style pale ale, however you want to describe it, at 6% ABV, so it kind of is actually getting into the territory of being a regular IPA. So as I say, not too sure what to expect from this one, but knowing this brewery and knowing what the Slovenian craft beers are like, I think this is going to be yet another very good beer. So very much looking forward to it, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from the Lobik brewery before. There will still be a couple more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Slovenian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Lobik brewery then before we taste the beer. So the Lobik brewery, as I mentioned to you earlier, are based in Maribor in Slovenia, which of course is the second city of the country, and it's up kind of in the northeastern corner. But they were founded officially back in 2016, and it was founded by a group of 4 friends who began homebrewing together back in 2008. So this was Gregor Mumel, Alan Zaretz, Grega Boltic and Vid Kolmanec Bucar, if I'm pronouncing those names correctly. I do apologise to those of you watching in Slovenia if I've just butchered your language. But the 4 friends apparently met at rowing training, and they were too young to buy beer for themselves because they were only about 16 years old at the time, so they decided that they were going to brew their own beer to get around this. But initially they wanted just to brew lager beer, but then they learned through the wonders of the internet that there was a whole host of other beer styles out there, and this really got them hooked on the idea of experimenting with different things. So Alan and Gregor apparently work on the recipes together, although Gregor works as a doctor in Austria as well, but Vid and Grega apparently deal with the distribution side of the brewery mainly, and they were students for a number of years in Ljubljana, and this was where they made a lot of the contacts now that the brewery are using for exports and things like this. But the original 4 are now joined at the brewery by Vid Zlebnik and Ajax Petric, if I'm pronouncing those names correctly once again. But the name Lobik apparently translates into English as fat fish, and the idea behind this was the fact that these guys were training quite intensely at intensively I should say, at rowing, and this meant that they put on a lot of weight and muscle, but with the beer that they were brewing they also put on a lot of weight from that as well. So it was meant to be a sort of double-barreled joke if you like, and it's quite a clever name I have to admit as well actually. But they started off with a very small 60 litre brew kit, and they were brewing in a rented basement in Maribor itself, but they've now opened up their own brewery. They opened that up in April of 2016 in the Russia district of the city, which is apparently the industrial area, and they've been doing very well actually. But they're using most of the money that they make to invest in new equipment for the future, like new fermentation tanks and brewing vessels and stuff like this. So they are planning to expand further in the future, and they've already started to export their beer to Italy, Scotland and Ireland as well actually. So yeah, a brewery that seemed to have made a very good name for themselves, and apparently the biggest part of their sales, from what I was reading in the article, does apparently go to other countries, because their beers by Slovenian standards are kind of expensive because they're, you know, very high quality obviously, and yeah, a lot of their beer apparently does, most of their beer gets exported into Italy, which is quite interesting. But yeah, as I said, the last beer I reviewed from these guys, which was the Able Archer, that was very nice, and I was very impressed with that one, so I'm really curious to see what they're doing with this one. This one appears to be a beer that's a little bit more regular. From what I understand, Able Archer was a kind of one-off brew. So I'm really curious to see what one of their more kind of regular brews looks like. And you know, as I've said before, the quality of Slovenian beer is very, very good in my experience, and it does tend to be the case that these countries that are good at wine making, as I know Slovenia is, do tend to be very good with their craft beers as well, and Slovenia is no exception to that. They've got all their own hops as well, you know, the Styrian Wolf, Dana, the Styrian Golding, Salaya, Bobek I think is another one as well. You know, there's various hops down there that are very, very good, so it's really cool to be able to review some of these Slovenian beers for you here on the channel. So again, a huge thank you to Davor for making that possible. He's followed the channel since I did my first review from People on a Pellet Sun back in like 2015 or something like that. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. That's all you really need to know about the Lobik craft brewery just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. But yeah, let's get on to the tasting of this beer itself. I can get rid of the brewery notes now. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a 6% paleo, so to be honest, it's probably kind of impeding on the territory, if you like, of being an IPA actually. It says on the side here, we were the first brewery in this part of the world that brewed this style of beer. Now we are coming back stronger than ever, actually hoppier. This is a true New England Vermont style paleo with minimal bitterness and a fruity punch, flavour and aroma. It's described as drinking hop juice because of the extra fruity hops and yeast. This beer is super special for you. If you're still reading this, why you may ask? Because every batch is brewed with different hops. Look on our Instagram's profile for more info. Maybe it's the new hipster hop, or maybe it's a single hop Bobane monstrosity. Lobik never stops tossing them in. It's a true nuclear reactor. It's having a cake and eating it too. A cake that makes you fat and is full of bad alcohol. So yeah, but really nice. That's kind of quite good actually. I do like that. But there you can see, here's the artwork on this one. And as I was saying, I think Davor had mentioned this to me actually, there were some beers where they just changed the hops around a little bit. But yeah, you can see the hop juice, the nuclear biohazard stuff coming out of there. There you can see the fat fish. And you can also see the kind of nuclear reactor and stuff there. I really like the artwork on that actually. And if I bring just this little particular part up to the camera, there you can see that is the Lobik Brewery symbol. So yeah, really nicely presented, this one. So without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. It says that this one is best before the 10th of April 2019, so I'm guessing that means it'll have been canned somewhere around November, somewhere around that kind of time. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see how this one turns out actually. So I guess this one is their kind of experimental hop, and when you open that up actually, you can smell some of these lovely juicy fruity notes coming out of it. So yeah, let's just see how we got on with this one. I tell you straight away, you can smell some really absolutely lovely hoppy qualities coming out of this beer. So as you can see, and as you would expect from a New England Pale Ale, it's poured a lovely bright goldeny yellow colour. There's a solid finger of quite a bumpy actually white coloured head on this one. This one has a real sharpness to it actually, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, you can smell that this beer is very, very fruity. But if I put my fingers behind the glass here, you can see this one is almost completely hazy. If I hold it up towards the light, I would say this one's more of a yellowy colour than an orange one. It does have a little bit of orange to it, but to me it comes across as being more yellow. But overall, in terms of its appearance, there's nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of that. But one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it does actually look very, very nice, and I like what they've I think this one, you know, it does look pretty much as you would expect, and it smells, the impression of the aroma I got with this one when I opened it up was also very, very nice. So let's just take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. There's nothing particularly surprising about this one in terms of its appearance. Now that's quite interesting actually. So with this beer, it has a little bit of a kind of, it's definitely got a little bit of a kind of tangerine orangey kind of thing going on with it. There's a little bit of sharpness of something else in there too. I do reckon, I'm trying to think what hop that is, I really do recognise the fruity character that's coming out of this one. Sorry about that, guys, little camera trouble there, but yeah, back to the beer with this one. So as I was saying with this beer, it's kind of interesting because it has a lot of juicy, fruity notes to it. I mean, underneath, in terms of the aroma, you can pick up, you know, the nice kind of wheaty, bready qualities in there. There's a little bit of a kind of oaty creaminess. There's a bit of a biscuity and grainy quality to this one as well. But the fruitiness is particularly interesting. It's got a little bit of sharpness to it, which is kind of interesting too. I mean, you can definitely pick up, there's a little touch of a sharpness to this beer. I'm not quite sure what that is. It's definitely, this beer to me has a bit of orangey and mango note to it, but there's a little bit of a kind of sharpness to this one as well, almost like a slightly red fruity kind of thing. Could it be a little bit of enigma or something like that? It's almost like a little bit of a kind of tart raspberry or something like that, and it's enigma, from what I remember, that gives you that raspberry-ish red berry sort of thing. I do wonder that, because enigma is becoming a little bit more of a popular hop, and I remember that these guys before, in one of the other beers I had, they were using Galaxy, so they're no stranger to Australian hops, right enough. But the other thing would be, is it a Slovenian hop that I'm just not thinking about? Because, you know, Styrian Wolf can give you these melon flavours, but it's not, this one, I don't think this is melon. This is more along the lines of a kind of sharper red fruity note, so I might want to say there is a little bit of enigma in here. But underneath that, it's got a little bit of mango. I don't think it's passion fruit, I think it's more of a mango-y note to this one. But it's also got a little bit of a kind of orangey quality to it as well, which is kind of interesting. So maybe there's a little bit of a Galaxy or a yeah, I think maybe Galaxy Citra Enigma, something like that. I wonder if that's what's going on in this beer. But other than that, you know, it's got quite a nice kind of grassy, floral, aromatic kind of thing going on. It's got a little bit of that, the typical malt base that you'd expect from the pale. As I say though, to me this one comes across as being a little bit more grainy than some of the other ones that I've had from Lobik before. But yeah, you can tell a little bit with the aroma of this one. This one isn't quite at its freshest, I will say that about it, but it does come across, it still comes across as being pretty nice and pretty fresh in its aroma, if that makes sense. But although it's not in its prime, I think it's definitely fair to say that about this beer. But we'll have a taste of this one then and see what you think. But there's nothing overall particularly surprising about the aroma of this beer. It's got a lovely juicy fruitiness, it's got the creamy and white wheaty sort of bready notes that you'd expect to the style. There's maybe a little touch of a biscuity note in there as well. The green side of the hops, a little bit of floral quality, a little bit of grassiness, again what you'd expect. And in terms of the fruits, I want to say it's almost got a little touch of a kind of a raspberry, red fruity sharpness to it, which makes me think so there's a bit of enigma in here, but it's also got a little bit of a mango-y, maybe slightly passion fruity sort of thing, and some orange too. So as I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get in, particularly with this one because they do tend to use different hops here. But this one is the Hop Hazard from the Lobik Brewery in Maribor in Slovenia once again. As always, thank you to Davor for supplying me with these awesome Slovenian beers. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, skål, na zdravje. Yeah, it's interesting that. I'll say again, I mean, it's not quite at its freshest, this one. And that's, in the taste it's a little bit kind of, it is a little bit obvious of that as well. But it's still an interesting paleo, this one. I like what they're doing with it. Yeah. So I mean, compared to the Able Archer, this beer is very, very kind of toned down. But again, this is the kind of thing you have. The paleo's the little brother of the IPA, which is the little brother of the double IPA, which is the little brother of the barley wine. I mean, this one is just supposed to be a nice kind of slightly more easygoing sort of sessionable beer rather than anything else, and you do get that vibe from it. It's a very kind of easy drinker, which really is something that you actually want from this particular style of beer, so bear that in mind with it. So in terms of the malt base then, let's take the malt base first. So with this one, you can feel a little bit of that kind of smooth white wheaty bready quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you start to get a little bit of the kind of oaty creaminess in there. This beer though does have a little bit of an almost graininess to it. You can definitely pick up there's a more sort of grainy aspect to this beer compared to the other ones. But in the centre of your palate there's a little touch of a biscuity sweetness in there, which is quite nice. Yeah, definitely a little bit of a kind of grainy sweetness in there to this one. It's almost biscuity sweetness, sorry. It reminds me a little bit of these kind of McVitie's digestives, and I would say that when the graininess starts to push its way out later on, you also get a little bit of the more biscuity sweetness from it further into the aftertaste that you go. But the way the malt base goes together in this one again is quite nice, and I do like that. It seems to be a kind of recurring trend with these Slovenian beers that they like them to have just a little bit of malty presence, particularly in the aftertaste. And I have to admit that's something I've missed a little bit when it comes to craft beers. A lot of them are just, you know, going all out to blast you with hoppiness rather than actually trying to balance the beer a little bit more and give you some of that malty quality to it. So kudos to Lobik Brewery for kind of focusing on that a little bit as well. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate, you've got a little touch of earthiness there. I think with this beer they're using one of the Slovenian hops, maybe the Bobek or something like that, as the bittering hop, as the main hop. And the Slovenian hops, the sort of more nobly type Slovenian hops like Bobek and Dana and stuff like that, I think that they tend to have a little bit more of a kind of, it's almost quite similar to the Tettnanger and the Hallertau hops that you get from Germany. They do have a little bit of that kind of noble hop quality to them, I would say. Yeah, and you do get that with this one a little bit. There is a little touch of it definitely has the way the grassiness and the floral qualities come out. I think they've used one of the Slovenian hops in here, and I would guess I think maybe it could be Bobek, it could be Dana, or it could just, you know, it could be a straight up Styrian Golding. It's definitely one of these more noble type Slovenian hops that they've used in here, because as you come further forward from that little bit of soft earthiness that you've got there, you know, you get a little touch of herbal quality almost. Then as you move right towards the front corners of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and kind of more grassy and slightly floral and aromatic. Then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's a bit more lighter and grassy again, I would say. But it's nice how all these flavours go together. When you go behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you start to get that little oily bubble, where those juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer, which is nice. Yeah, and the fruity side of this one again is it's quite interesting. I think, you know, I'm wondering, there is a little touch of like an almost mango-y note to it. It's got a little bit of an orange. I do wonder if there's a little bit of maybe I don't know about mosaic or something like this. I don't think Amarillo. Amarillo gives you a bit more of an oily orange to it, but I think there's definitely a bit of a mango-y, orangey quality. There could be a little bit of citra in here. Something like that, but I'm wondering, I mean, Enigma, I was thinking Enigma from the Aroma, and you do get a little bit of that almost red berry-ish flavour going into the aftertaste. I don't think any of the Slovenian hops that I can think of have that sort of flavour to them, so yeah, I'm very curious about whether it's Enigma that's in this one. I always like playing Guess the Hops with these different beers. So I do wonder if there's a little touch of Enigma in here, because at the front, in that oily bubble that I talk about with the fruity esters, you've got a little bit of a kind of almost red curranty, red berry sort of thing to this one. It's maybe even got a little touch of a slightly sort of, it's maybe even got a tiny little bit of a slightly raspberry-ish tartness to it or something like that. So the fruits for me, little touch of mango, maybe a little touch of an orangey tangerine kind of thing, and you've got some kind of red fruity, red curranty, raspberry type things to this beer as well. So it's a really interesting one. It's got the soft, kind of more noble hoppy qualities to it. It's got some interesting fruity notes, and it's got quite a nice smooth malt base to it. But it's another very solid beer from Lobik Brewery, and you know, it's not on the same level as, I guess, their more bold ones like the Abel Archer and some of the other ones that Davor's told me about, I guess, as well. But for me, in terms of being a drinkable pale ale, it gives you everything you'd want. So have a go at this beer for yourself and just kind of see what you think about it. I really like what they've done with this. But yeah, I like this idea as well of rotating the hops and doing different batches, you know, using the same base beer and changing the hops around a little bit. It's quite a novel idea that. Other breweries have done it before, of course, but it's cool to see that Slovenian breweries are starting to do it as well. But I like what they've done with this. Definitely in terms of being one of the slightly more drinkable beers, I guess you would say, from Lobik, they've done a nice job of that, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again or try the other kind of iterations that they do with this beer. So have a go at it for yourself and just see what you think, but just be aware with this one, you are going to get something unique pretty much every time that you try this beer. But there's nothing wrong with that, of course. But in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say this one's mid-bodied, carbonation is very, very smooth. The mouthfeel overall, it's quite a smooth one. There's a little bit of an oily quality to it, a little bit of wetness there too. You've also got some, I would say, there's a little touch of an oily wetness to this one, but it's mainly a kind of smooth beer, this, rather than anything else. A little bit of hoppy bitterness. I think you're talking about 30 IBUs in this one, maybe a little bit less, 25, something like that. Malt base, quite smooth, little touch of sweetness in there, a little bit of graininess in this one as well, right enough. And you've also got some nice juicy fruity qualities. But overall, very, very nice beer once again. Not quite as bold and brash, I guess, as the other ones you're going to get from Lobik, but still a nice kind of easy drinker, and to be fair, that is what you would expect from a pale ale. But they've done a nice job of this one, as I said, and you can't really ask them for much more than that. So let's leave it at that for this one. So this one is the Hop Hazard, a New England Vermont style pale ale from the Lobik Brewery in Maribor in Slovenia. Once again, a huge thank you to Davor for making this review possible, and I'm really glad that I'm able to review some of these beers for you here on the channel, and I hope that you guys in Slovenia are enjoying watching these too. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Lobik Brewery as well, and do give me some other Slovenian craft beer and craft brewery reviews, or recommendations I should say, if you have any in mind. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Hop Hazard, New England Vermont style pale ale at 6% ABV from the Lobik Brewery in Maribor in Slovenia. Once again, thank you, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Slanja, Skal, Nastravia.